very good afternoon. Welcome to Africa Today. I am Udwak Daniel. First, let's talk the headlines. And on the headlines, federal government declares Monday public holidays. Still on the headlines, Mali rejects regional sanctions on Guinea. Also on the headlines, Kenya heightens Ebola prevention on borders. And on sport, obey court order, federal government tells football stakeholders. And now the news in detail. Nigeria's Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, on behalf of the federal government, has declared Monday, October 3rd, 2022, a public holiday to mark the nation's 62nd independence celebration anniversary. While congratulating all Nigerians on this year's celebration, in the statement signed by the Permanent Secretary in the ministry, Shuaib Belgore, and made available to newsmen, the minister and assured of the government's commitment to tackling all the challenges facing the nation and bring smiles to the faces of all the people. Aregbesola reiterated the eminent position of Nigeria in the Committee of Nations and the greatness ahead of the country if Nigerians work together and work hard at it as a people. He also wished the Nigerians a memorable independence celebration, and he reminded them of the fact that the nation's founding fathers, in spite of the differences in faith, tribe, and tongue, still came together for Nigeria's independence. Away from that story, the Attorney General of the Federation, that is the AGF, and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami, has justified the burning of cocaine and other illicit drugs seized by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, that is the NDLEA. Fielding questions from State House correspondents at the end of Wednesday's Federal Executive Council meeting, that is the FEC-FEC, Malami said the drugs were burnt to stop them from circulating in the country.
The decision to destroy the bulk of the seizure follows a court order obtained by the agency from the Federal High Court. Out of the 2,139 tons, 1,828 blocks of the cocaine will be set ablaze here today. That 1,828 blocks represents 2,112 tons of cocaine.
Recall NDLEA's recent season and setting ablaze cocaine weighing 1.8 tons and valued at over 194 billion naira set off a barrage of criticisms. Speaking at the historic event, NDLEA Chairman Buba Marwa, represented by Sunday Joseph, spoke on the burning.
All this illicit drug, we don't have any time for their destruction. The havoc on the youth will be much more than this.
The cocaine set ablaze at the NDLEA Semi-Special Area Command compound at Bereko, Badagry area of Lagos on Tuesday was said to be the biggest singular cocaine history. Many Nigerians condemned NDLEA's handling of the seized drugs for various reasons, including economical and evidential. There were others who expressed concerns about the environment hazards of the burning. And to another story, the Independent National Electoral Commission, that is the INEC, on Wednesday called the Nigerians to vote correctly on election days in the 2023 general election. The commission also warned that inappropriate marking of boxes or spaces provided on the ballot papers by voters may affect the overall outcome of the elections. The INEC Assistant Director, Planning and Programming in the Department of Voter Education, Dorothy Inyang, raised the concern in Abuja, the nation's capital.
All hands should be on deck, to provide voter education. But top on the list are registered and civil societies who have passion, in civic responsibilities, educating the citizens, to be alive to their obligations and responsibilities.
Santiago Stocker, a representative of the International Institute, stressed the need for Nigerians to pay attention to manifestos of political parties and assured of the international community's commitment.
While the 2022 Electoral Act has been widely hailed as a step forward, there are very few people who are familiar with its specific provisions especially the ones related to electoral offenses like vote buying, that really do threaten to undermine the legitimacy of the 2023 elections.
Consequently, the Commission advised voters to follow the due procedure for voting their preferred candidate or party correctly or have such votes invalidated. When we return, news from other parts of West Africa. Stay with us. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This is Africa Today on Hills TV. Yesterday, an internal commission at Chad's National Reconciliation Dialogue proposed an extension to the transition to elections by 2 years, keep the head of the military junta as head of state, and then allow him to run for president at the ballot box. This inclusive and sovereign national dialogue, that is the DNIS, was launched on August 20, 16 months after Mohamed Idriss Déby Itno was proclaimed president of the Republic by the army following the death of his father, Idriss Déby Itno. The young general abrogated the constitution, dissolved parliament, and dismissed the government, but immediately promised to return power to civilians through the free and democratic elections after a transition of 18 months, renewable once. He also pledged to the Chadians and the international community, which immediately endorsed him, that he would not run in the upcoming presidential elections. And now let's get to Mali and have you know that Mali's interim prime minister said on Wednesday that it does not respect and will not apply sanctions imposed by West Africa's main political and economic bloc, ECOWAS, on neighboring Guinea in the wake of last year's coup. ECOWAS last week imposed sanctions on Guinea's ruling junta for taking too long to organize elections and restore democracy after seizing power last year. The measures include freezing junta members' financial assets and barring them from traveling to other countries in the region. Mali's interim prime minister, Abdoulaye Maiga, called the sanctions illegal, inhumane, and illegitimate, while acknowledging the solidarity and fraternity between both countries. Mali was hit with even broader sanctions earlier this year after its ruling junta also delayed organizing elections. We now move to other parts of Africa after this break. Don't go away. Always a delight to have you back to the Africa Today on Hills TV. Talking more stories following an outbreak of Ebola in the Ugandan town of Mubende. Health authorities in the Kenyan frontier town of Busia have heightened surveillance in a bid to prevent the virus from spreading across the border. Everyone passing through the border from the Democratic Republic of Congo, that is the DRC, Burundi, South Sudan, and Uganda into Kenya now have to undergo screening at a border crossing. Melsa Lutumia, Acting Chief Officer of Health and Sanitation in the Busia County Government of Kenya, explains further.
So what's happening at the border is taking of the temperature, after which the clients fill a surveillance form. The surveillance form, basically, they fill in their personal details, their names.
They also get to fill their contact details and where they started their journey from, so that they can detect whether they are from any areas near the Mubende division of Uganda. Still in the news, the genocide trial on Thursday of a Rwandan businessman captured 2 years ago after decades on the run has begun in The Hague, with judges saying the hearing must go on despite the suspect's decision to boycott it from his jail cell. Felicien Kabuga, a former businessman and radio station owner, is one of the last suspects sought by a UN tribunals prosecuting crimes committed in the 1994 genocide, when ruling Hutu majority extremists killed more than 800,000 minority Tutsis and Hutu moderates in 100 days. Kabuga is in his mid to late 80s, though his precise date of birth is disputed. He was arrested in May 2020 in Paris between COVID-19 lockdowns and extradited to The Hague, where he has entered a not guilty plea. During his extradition hearings in France, he described the accusations against him as lies. Coming right up next on Africa Today is Business. Don't go away. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This is the Business Desk on Africa Today. The stock markets ended the session with a bullish trend as the markets rebounded with a gain of 14 billion naira on Wednesday after losing 15 billion naira on Tuesday. The all-share index rose by 10.25 basis points or 0.02% to close at 49,171.70 basis points as investors gained 14 billion naira in value as market capitalization went up to 26.531 trillion naira. The positive trend was influenced by gains recorded in mediums and large capitalized stocks. At the end of last week, the stock was down by 241 billion naira last week as investors traded with uncertainty surrounding the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria, that is the CBN, scheduled for this week. The CBN on Tuesday, after the two-day MPC meeting in Abuja, raised its monetary policy rate to 15.5%. The CBN also raised the cash reserve ratio to 32.5% from 27.5%. The leader of the Nigerian capital market, Rashid Yusuf, stated that the stock market was reacting to a series of developments both locally and internationally. And now let's get on to Malawi and have you know the Malawi's President Lazarus Chakwera and the United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken oversaw the signing of a Millennium Change Corporation Compact, that is the MCC, worth $350 million on Wednesday. The Malawian Finance and Economic Affairs Minister Sostin Gwengwe and the MCC CEO Alice Albright inked the MOU, that is the Memorandum of Understanding, in Washington. The aim through the MCC, which assists developing nations meeting democratic benchmarks, will find a major road network to connect rural and urban areas in Malawi. The Biden administration says through the Millennium Challenge Corporation, that is the MCC, the U.S. government and the government of Malawi will include the $245 million Accelerated Growth Corridors project. Still to come on Africa Today is sports. Don't go away.
Good afternoon and welcome to Sport News on Africa Today. I am Aidnan Lubem. Now to Sport News. The federal government of Nigeria on Wednesday in Abuja urged stakeholders in the Nigerian football to remain calm and abide by a September 15 order of the Federal High Court. Newsmen reported that the Nigeria Football Federation had scheduled Friday in Benin for the elections into the 2022 to 2026 NFF Executive Committee. However, Ismaila Abubakar, Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport Development, in a statement said the federal government wanted the stakeholders not to do anything or take any further steps, particularly as regards the election. He said the ministry was not ignorant of recent developments concerning the NFF elective Congress, which was initially scheduled for Friday. The permanent secretary said the Office of the Minister of Youth and Sport Development would abide with and obey the court order and advised all stakeholders to do the same. Nigeria Super Eagles head coach Jose Peseiro is looking forward to Super Eagles friendly against Portugal, his native country, in November. Peseiro's side failed to get a win in their latest back-to-back friendlies against Algeria, but the Portuguese has now shifted attention to the next friendly match. Nigeria will play 2016 European champions Portugal in an international friendly on November 17 in Lisbon. The Super Eagles were without several first-team stars against the Algerians, including strikers Victor Osimhen, Sadiq Umar, midfielder Wilfred Ndidi, and defenders William Troost-Ekong and Jamilu Collins, who all pulled out due to injury. Serbian striker Dejan Djurgovic has terminated his contract with Tanzanian Premier League side Simba Sports Club. The striker, who has only been with the club since August this year, says he decided to terminate his 2-year contract because Simba SC were not fulfilling their side of the contractual obligations, and confirmed this in a communication released on Wednesday. The Serbian striker, who had become a darling of the fans, joined Simba SC from NK Domzali on recommendation of the former head coach of the Tanzanian Giants, Zoran Maki, who eventually left the club last month and joined a team in Egypt. Djurgovic was only able to score 1 goal in a 2-0 win against Kagera Sugar FC in a league match played on August 20 at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium. Although Simba SC are yet to officially comment on the departure, he went on to thank the Simba SC fans for their love and support. And that's your sport news on Africa Today. Back to Uduak Daniel for the rest of the news.
Many thanks to Ainan Lubem for that one on sports. And still talking more stories, Justice Mojisola Dada of the Special Offences Court, Ikeja, Lagos State, has sentenced the 22-year-old man, Abiola Emmanuel, to 2 years imprisonment for fraud. According to reports, the convict was arraigned by the Economic Financial Crimes Commission, that is the EFCC, on 1 count of retention of proceeds of crime to the tune of $38,000, 1 laptop, 1 wristwatch, and 1 diamond-encrusted wristwatch from unsuspecting members of the public. The offense, which is punishable under Section 333 of the Criminal Law of Lagos State 2015, saw the defendant plead guilty to the charge. Although the defense counsel Z.A. Makinde appealed to the court for mercy, Emmanuel was sentenced to 2 years imprisonment with an option of the fine of 20 million naira. And that's Africa Today, but before we go, a quick look at our top stories. We told you federal government declares Monday public holidays. We also told you Mali rejects regional sanctions on Guinea. Also on the headlines, Kenya heightens Ebola prevention on borders. And on sport, obey court order, federal government tells football stakeholders. Remember to visit us on Facebook at Hills TV, Instagram at Hills TV. Our YouTube channel is at Hills TV. I am Uduak Daniel. Thank you for watching.